Today, Scorched Earth Toys at anymoon.com is doing another comparison video. This time, we're pitting the original high metal sound booster released in August 2010 for 2,950 yen against the high metal R reissue released in February 2025 for 6,000 yen. For those of you who haven't seen my original versus high metal VF-19Kai video, do yourself a favor and click that card now to learn all about how the high metal R VF-19Kai was a completely new mold and was superior to the original release in every way. Given that experience and the inflated price, you couldn't be blamed for expecting something similar out of the sound booster accessory, and you would be completely wrong. The High Metal R sound booster is just a reissue of the original High Metal release with some modest changes to the box, its contents, and some paint applications. When Bandai originally released Macross 7 High Metal toys, there was definitely no clear strategy. They released the VF-19Kai with almost no accessories, no landing gear, no display stand. It felt incomplete. Then Bandai sold an accessory kit separately through the Tamashii website, including a display stand and a lot of fun extras that should have been included with the toy. The sound booster was also sold separately through the Tamashii site, but only included a Batroid connector and instructions. So both the toy and the sound booster came without landing gear or a display stand, really pushing you to stick with Batroid or buy that accessory kit. In contrast, the High Metal R VF-19Kai comes with a plethora of accessories, including a Batroid connector for the sound booster, which means if you want to put a sound booster on a later release of the VF-19, you're also going to have to own a VF-19Kai. The sound booster box is much bigger than the original release because Bandai included the Fire Bomber display stand base and a Stage Act arm. You also get a center plug for the display stand base and a bracket for connecting the sound booster in fighter mode. The HMR also opted to stow the sound booster antenna separately, but it plugs right in.
Wait, this thing is a reissue? Is this guy kidding me? No, I'm not, and it's pretty lame. Here is the High Metal R version. It is a lighter blue than the original release. The reds may have a little difference. The red on the original release is shiny. The red on the newer release is matte. But on these sound boosters, I struggle to see much of a difference. On the actual underlying toys, it's pretty obvious, but on these, so minor. But then, as you look at them a little closer, the newer release, the High Metal R version, is actually missing several paint applications, and that really bummed me out. One of the most obvious ones as we start is the black paint in the boosters. Why? Why would you get rid of that? Like, it creates the depth you need, and this looks cheap and hollow, so that is a letdown. But on a positive note, on the original release, you could see we have this silver pin that holds the wing, and they made that black on the High Metal R, so I guess that's nice. And then as we transform this into its actual booster mode, we are going to open up these cavities here. This is the original release. Note the two-tone paint application that goes throughout. And now as we open it on the High Metal R version, wah, wah, wah. I should actually put a sad trombone sound. It's just silver. What? Why? Why would you step backwards? Lame. But you know what's not lame? The inclusion of a display stand base. Here is how it was originally released. And this was, again, part of the accessory kit, not with the sound booster, and there's no gold fire bomber, and it's glossy plastic. Now we have matte plastic with the gold fire bomber. So a visual upgrade for sure there. We had this arm on the original and you could put it in one of 4 directions. Now we get a peg that goes into that central hole and converts it from that display stand arm to any Tamashii base. So this can go in here, or we can plug it in any of these other holes. And so you have lots of different options for elevating your sound booster now, which it will fit right into this central hole that we also use to connect the sound booster in Batroid mode. So you have the ability to show this thing flying right out of the box, unlike the original release. The original release didn't have any way to install the sound booster on a fighter mode version of the toy. That has been addressed. We have to get a fingernail in and pry up these little panels next to the head. And then we grab this adapter piece. Those front pegs go right in beside the head, and then these little pegs go into the holes inside the shoulders there, and everything will peg in very firmly into place, so that is now locked into position, and we can grab our sound booster. You can see there's a little curvature here, and then there's that peg in the center, which then lines up with that slot that we used just a moment ago to put our sound booster on the display stand. Just line that up, press down. Now here's the downside to it. We have a big adapter that is black, and you can see if you look at it from straight ahead or you look at it from straight behind, that's a pretty ugly adapter. But if we take our toy and we put it on the display stand and we view it from one of numerous other angles, it's not nearly as bad. Yeah, on a deluxe toy, I would love to see a lot better solution, but you can do this, and you couldn't do it on the original High Metal because we didn't get that adapter. I misspoke earlier and said that the hole in the bottom is for connecting to Batroid, but the truth is it's this hole underneath the antenna that's for connecting to Batroid. We're going to take our antenna off now and convert the sound booster. We'll close the wings, we'll rotate these fins so that they are flat when looking forward. We're then going to apply a little pressure outward to reveal those pegs right there, and then we're going to swing this around forward like so. We're going to go ahead and we're going to open our speaker bays. And then we are going to open that top compartment here that I showed you earlier when I was complaining about the paint applications. So this little panel here comes forward a little bit, then up and then out like so. And then underneath we have these little panels that go in front of the shoulders. Now mine are very sticky, and these are thin pieces of plastic on a hinge. So that's my only durability concern. Be a little careful with that. And then it should look like this, more or less. When you get here, here is our converted original release. And again, you can see the red's very similar, blue's different. We've already talked about that paint application on the top and how I wasn't a fan of that. But you can see the speakers basically the same. And we have this nice paint application on the interior here where it was, you couldn't see that in the fighter mode. You could see it now and it's painted, so I do like that. And what I really like about both of these is that pink insert right here. It's sort of reflective. It's got a texture interior. It's translucent. So I think they did a really good job on the first, and it's still there on the reissue. So high marks for that. In my comparison of the High Metal R and the High Metal VF-19Kai toys, I didn't mention one High Metal R feature because it wasn't in the instructions, and Bandai seemed to figure that out and mentioned it in their sound booster instructions, so I'm going to show it now. This sleeve here, same as the Yamato 160, this bicep has a sleeve that you can bring downward. Now, by doing this, you do restrict the elbow articulation to one joint. So instead of 100 degrees or 180 degrees, it becomes 90 degrees. So now we have a 90-degree elbow, but we have a much chunkier looking bicep. So if you're not using that articulation, this is a better look for you. To install the sound booster on the original High Metal toy, you had this black bracket that slid in between these two pegs, and then you would take that peg on the back, put it into the middle of the sound booster like so, and then you can bring these portions down. But there was a little tightness when it came to the shoulders, so it really helped to bring the shoulders back a little bit. And then you could bring these all the way forward like so. Being a reissue, it should be no surprise that things work very similarly with the High Metal R. Now we have this red adapter, again, that was included with the toy instead of the sound booster. And now it pegs in via a rectangular peg into the back of the toy. Press it firmly into position, and it will get into the right spot where the little nubs go into their little cavities on the sides here. And then we can grab our toy. Again, we'll position these portions upward to start and just line things up and get that on. But now with this toy, you can actually bring those straight down and they will be right where they need to be without having to do any sort of manipulation of those shoulders. One of my criticisms about the High Metal version of the sound booster was that it sat up too high behind the head. Unfortunately, even though the High Metal R is a brand new toy and they have a totally new bracket on the back, they weren't able to shift that down since it's just a reissue. So that complaint stays from the original toy to the new toy. And from a handling perspective, other than these shoulders having to be swept back, it's really no different. And that's not a bad thing. The original High Metal, it really attaches firmly to the toy. So I can handle this toy, I can play with it right now, and that isn't going anywhere. I could shake it, it's fine. It's nice and solid. I do appreciate that. And the same is absolutely true of the High Metal R. Now the High Metal R, again, just a fantastic toy in comparison, so even the joints, everything else being much more sturdy. But yeah, I can play with this toy, and that sound booster is not going to really inhibit it, and it's a very light accessory, so I can still handle this toy on the ground without it being on a display stand with that sound booster on there and still enjoy playing with it. If you already own the original High Metal sound booster, should you get the new version? Well, here is the original sound booster on the High Metal R toy, and as you can see, everything's working out just fine. We have the High Metal R adapter connected to it. It's on there nice and sturdy, and it looks fantastic. So you only need to get the High Metal R version if you really care about the display stand, which is nice with that Firebomber text and the fact that you can now put any Tamashii Stage Act arm into that display stand base. That's great. And now we have that fighter mode adapter, so if you care about that, then certainly the High Metal R version is the way to go. Otherwise, yeah, you have that original one. You can go ahead and use it. You don't have to make another purchase, which I guess is fantastic news. If you have enjoyed this review, please give me a thumbs up. If you feel like I missed something, throw a comment out there. Subscribe if you like toys and mecha and stuff from the 80s, and I'll see you on the next video.